It's really easy to just want to jump right in and start working and have the VA start doing things. But if you don't take these things seriously from the beginning, then you're opening yourself up to all kinds of liabilities. Maybe you didn't do a contract and they stop working and they're not delivering the way that they're supposed to. You don't have any sort of recourse if something goes wrong. Welcome to the Process to Profit podcast, where I dig into the key strategies that build successful service-based businesses. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale, I'll share practical techniques to help you overcome overwhelm, boost your income, and fall in love with your business again. Let's get your business working for you. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode. Today I'm continuing my VA series, and I'm going to be talking about how you actually hire a VA. In the last two episodes, we talked about how you find a VA, and then the other one was how you decide if you actually... In the first two episodes, we talked about how to figure out if you need a VA in your business, how to prepare your business for a VA, and then how do you actually find one and what the interview and application process looks like. So if you haven't listened to those two episodes, first, make sure you go back and listen to those before you listen to this one. I also want to add that I do have a free resource to go with all of these episodes. It is the VA Roadmap, and it's available at laurenglynn.com/resources. There are exercises in there where you can follow along with the things that I'm teaching you. There are templates and checklists and all kinds of good things so that you can actually put into practice the things that we're talking about here today. I also want to do a disclaimer. I am not a legal expert. I am not a lawyer. I am not your lawyer. I am not a tax expert. I am just another business owner who has experienced some things, so I will give you my advice and my opinions. But you should consult with professionals, a lawyer and a tax professional, if you are trying to implement this in your business so that they can give you advice based on your specific location, business needs, all those good things. So, not a lawyer, not a tax professional. Just putting that out there. Don't sue me, please. So the first thing we're going to talk about is having a contract with your VA. And it's really important that you have a contract with your VA so that everyone is on the same page around the work that they're doing, how they're getting paid, what the cadence of payment is, what their confidentiality terms are, what the intellectual property rights things are, and termination clauses, and any other things that you think might be necessary in your VA contract. Now, again, not a legal professional. This is just my experience. Those are all the things that I've included in my working agreement with my VA in the past to make sure that we're all on the same page and that it's really clear what my expectations are and that they understand sort of when they're going to be getting paid, how much they're going to be getting paid, and what their work is that they're doing for me. And in the workbook, the VA Roadmap workbook, there is a exercise in there called the VA Contract Considerations Checklist so that you can make sure that you're including everything that is important to you in your contract. Now, I would recommend having a lawyer look over the contract because you don't want some weird clause in there or some misspelling or some word that you missed negating the whole contract. You want to make sure that it is legal and that it is binding and that it is enforceable. So definitely recommend having a legal professional look over a contract before you send it over to your VA to sign. The next consideration when you're actually hiring your VA is how are you going to pay them? And there's a couple of different payment systems that you can use. If they are in the US, you can actually use an ACH transfer. That's what I prefer to do with my US-based VA. It revolves a little bit of trust because they have to give you their routing number and account number to set up within your account. But usually there's no fees associated with it. And it takes just a few days for the money to come through. That is usually the most cost-effective way to actually pay them and also keep it legal because things like Zelle may or may not be allowed in your bank. I think my bank doesn't connect with it. Another option is Zelle if both your bank and your VA's bank use it and you're both in the US. You can also do a wire transfer, but those are usually very expensive, so I don't recommend that. Usually an ACH is the most professional and an easy way to kind of set that up if you don't want to use something like Zelle. If your VA is not US-based or they don't want to do an ACH transfer or Zelle, they would rather run it through something like a payment processor, then that's sort of up to them to figure out how they want to be paid. It might be PayPal, it might be Stripe, it might be, through their invoice might have a payment link. So if that's how they manage their business, and obviously that's how you should pay them, that should all be detailed in your contract about how they're going to actually get paid. If your VA is outside the US, then you have a couple of different options. You can use PayPal in most countries. You can also use Wise, which is an international bank that you can set up a business account in. You can set up your account in US dollars and then exchange money into whatever the your VA currency is. My VA is in the Philippines, so I put money in using my US dollars and then transfer the money into his Filipino account, and it does the transfer for me. And there's a small fee for that, but I find that Wise is usually the cheapest for exchanging money and exchanging currencies. So that's a really great way to pay someone. You do need their bank information, which they should be able to give you so that you can send the money over to them. And in the workbook, there's an activity that compares all of these different payment options so that you can kind of compare and contrast and see which one is the right one for you and for your business. And it'll also depend on your VA. They may have a preference on how they get paid. And since it's their business, if they have a preference, then that's what you should go along with. But it doesn't hurt to be informed about all of the different options. You also want to be mindful of any tax considerations when you're paying someone else. If you are in the US, then you are probably paying someone as a 1099 contractor. You should work with a tax professional to figure out if your VA is a 1099 contractor or a W-2 employee. A W-2 employee usually has more benefits and more protections, but you can be more specific about how you direct their work, what time they're working, and things like that. So you should talk to your tax professional to see which category your VA actually falls under. Usually they're a 1099, which means that they are a contractor and you are giving them work to do, but they have a lot more control over when they work, how they actually implement the things that you're asking them to do. So it's a really fine line between treating someone like an employee and treating them like a contractor. So make sure that you are working with your tax professional, your legal professional, to make sure that you are not overstepping that, because there are some pretty severe penalties for treating 1099 contractors like employees. Just ask Uber. Uber has gotten in big trouble for this. So make sure that you are being really clear around how you're classifying your VA for in your business. And if your VA is international, then that gets even more complicated. So I'm not even going to comment on that. Make sure you are talking to a tax professional to see how that impacts your business, how you have to track it, how you have to report it, and what that all looks like. In your workbook, there's actually a list of tax questions that you can ask your tax professional around hiring a VA, whether they're international or domestic. Another consideration when you're actually hiring your VA is data privacy and security, and making sure that your data is still secure, any of your customers' data is still secure, and that you're not sharing more than you need to with your VA so that they have enough to do their job, but they don't have access to every piece of information in your business that they maybe don't need access to. And same thing for your clients' information. If they don't need access to client information to do their jobs, then they shouldn't have access to it. You have to be really specific about that. You could have your VA sign an NDA. You could just include something in your original contract around confidentiality. It's up to you and your legal professional how you want to handle that. You also need to consider any GDPR implications if you are working with a VA that's in the EU, or if any of your clients are in the EU. If you're in the EU, then you need to make sure that you are handling all of that data in compliance with GDPR or any other local regulations that control how data is managed, handled, and secured. And again, there is a workbook activity that is a really easy checklist for making sure that you are managing and handling the privacy of your data and your customers' data as well as you can. And then the last piece that you want to consider is liability. And you want to understand if your liability insurance covers your VA. Probably not if they're not an employee. You want to be really clear with your insurance provider who this person is, what they're doing, understand if they need to be included in your liability insurance or any other business insurance that you have. So these are all things that you should be reviewing with your insurance provider to see sort of what the implications are for you and your specific business and the specific tasks that the VA is doing and the way that the VA is classified in your business. So talk to your tax professional about that. Talk to your So talk to your insurance professional about that. So just to recap, you want to make sure that you are writing as in-depth of a contract as you can, that you're including everything that needs to be included in there for your protection and for your VA's protection. You're including things like statement of work, payment terms, how they're being paid, any data privacy and security things, anything that you need to make sure that they understand and that you're all on the same page. And again, make sure you consult a legal professional on that contract. You also want to make sure that you are classifying your VA the correct way, either as 1099 or an employee, as a W-2 employee if you're in the US. You also want to check out, make sure that you're considering any data or privacy considerations. And then you also want to make sure that you are ensuring the work that your VA does as required by law or as appropriate for the business that you have. And again, consult with all of the professionals that you need to make sure that you are CYA, covering your own ass, and not leaving your business open to vulnerabilities. And it's really important that you get these things right from the start, because it's really easy to just want to jump right in and start working and have the VA start doing things. But if you don't take these things seriously from the beginning, then you're opening yourself up to all kinds of liabilities. You're, maybe you didn't do a contract and they stop working and, they're not delivering the way that they're supposed to. You don't have any sort of recourse if something goes wrong, or they share your confidential company information publicly, and you didn't have a contract saying they couldn't do that, or an NDA saying they couldn't do that, non-disclosure agreement, as NDA stands for. And now you're sort of SOL because you don't have any way of getting back. You don't have any sort of recourse for going after them for what they've done. So it's really important that you get this all right from the start so that you don't have any problems going forward. Again, you can get that free workbook at laurenglenn.com/resources. That will have all of these checklists on there to make sure that when you hire your VA, you are literally checking every box, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and knowing what questions you should be asking of the professionals that you're working with that will be giving you the actual legal advice. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we're going to be talking about onboarding your VA and what does that actually look like? What systems and processes do you need? So make sure that you are subscribed. If you found this episode helpful, go ahead and leave a comment and a review. I would love to hear from you. I also would love to hear from you over on Threads. That's where I'm most active, Lauren G. Consulting. Do you have a VA? Does your VA have a contract, or did they sign an NDA? Are they a W-2 person or a 1099 person? I want to hear what's going on with you. So come on over to Threads, Lauren G. Consulting, and let me know how it's working out for you. And I will talk to you all next week. Remember, your systems are the backbone of your business. Bye!